Hold on, this gets weird. The place millions of Americans call home was never supposed to exist the way it does today. Entire neighborhoods, cul-de-sacs, white picket fences, two-car garages, much of it came from a massive social experiment that quietly reshaped a nation. You're watching Fact Harbor, and the story gets stranger the deeper you go. Picture this, you leave a major American city and suddenly everything changes. The buildings spread out, the streets get wider, houses start looking suspiciously similar. It feels normal because you've seen it your entire life. But here's the mystery. If suburbs are such a natural part of America, why did they appear so suddenly? And who decided that millions of people should live this way? Most people assume suburbs slowly evolved over centuries, the same way old towns and cities did. They didn't. In fact, if you traveled back to the early 1900s, much of suburban America simply wasn't there. Most people either lived in cities or in rural areas. The giant sea of neighborhoods stretching for miles around cities, that was still waiting to happen. And that's where things get interesting, because the suburb wasn't just a place. It was an idea, a dream, a promise that you could have city jobs without city problems. But where did that dream come from? And why did millions of families suddenly buy into it? To answer that, we have to jump back to a world filled with smoke, noise, and crowded streets. The common story goes like this. Americans got richer, bought cars, and naturally moved outward. Sounds reasonable, right? Cars certainly helped. So did rising incomes. But those explanations leave out one huge detail. People don't just wake up one morning and decide to build thousands of nearly identical neighborhoods across an entire country. Something much bigger was happening behind the scenes. Think about it. Roads had to be built, land had to be developed, mortgages had to become available, entire communities had to appear almost overnight. That doesn't happen by accident. And the person who helped unlock this transformation wasn't a car executive or a politician. It was a builder with an idea so ambitious that many people thought it would fail completely. After World War II, America faced a problem. Millions of soldiers were returning home. They wanted jobs. They wanted families. Most importantly, they wanted houses. But there weren't enough homes. At the same time, cities were crowded, and housing shortages were becoming serious. The traditional way of building homes one house at a time was too slow. Then came a developer named William Levitt. Instead of building houses individually, he borrowed ideas from factory assembly lines. Workers repeated specific tasks again and again. One crew poured foundations, another installed windows, another handled roofs. The result was shocking. Homes could be built faster and cheaper than people thought possible. But wait, the real twist wasn't the houses themselves. It was what happened next. In 1947, construction began on Levittown in New York. This wasn't just a neighborhood, it was a blueprint. Thousands of nearly identical homes appeared on what had recently been farmland. Streets, schools, parks, and shopping areas were planned together. Families could buy homes with government-backed mortgages that made ownership more affordable than many city apartments. Suddenly, the American dream had an address. Young families flooded in, children filled the streets, lawns became symbols of success. And once the formula worked, it spread everywhere. Developers copied it, banks financed it, governments supported it through highway construction and housing policies. New roads connected distant neighborhoods to city jobs, making daily commuting possible. The suburb wasn't merely growing, it was becoming the dominant way Americans lived. But there's another side to this story that often gets overlooked, and it's impossible to understand suburbia without it. The suburban dream wasn't equally available to everyone. Many early developments used discriminatory housing practices that excluded large groups of Americans. Certain neighborhoods openly restricted who could buy homes. Lending policies often reinforced those barriers. So while suburbs helped millions build wealth and stability, they also deepened social and economic divisions that would echo for generations. That's the part many old advertisements never mentioned. The picture-perfect neighborhood had a complicated foundation. And here's the really surprising thing. We're still living with many of those decisions today. The layout of cities, traffic patterns, housing costs, long commutes, even debates about zoning and development all trace back to choices made decades ago. When you zoom out, the American suburb becomes one of the most successful and influential urban experiments in history. It transformed farmland into communities, changed how families lived, and reshaped the physical landscape of an entire country. Few ideas have altered everyday life on such a massive scale. So, the next time you drive through a quiet neighborhood lined with similar houses, remember, you're not just looking at homes, you're looking at the result of a post-war vision that changed where people lived, how they traveled, how they raised families, and even how cities grew around them. A suburb may look ordinary, but it's actually one of the biggest social experiments ever built one driveway at a time. And if your brain just spent 5 minutes questioning every cul-de-sac you've ever seen, maybe subscribe to Fact Harbor. That would make at least one homeowners association proud.